Exclusively on Stalemate's Patreon, Michael Moreno breaks down Stalemate Zach's high school wrestling match.
Nobody. I broke him from underneath.
Gas him from bottom.
Yeah.
We know a few people that can do that. It goes Thomas Gilman, Zach Bottom. So you want to get weight on that foot when he starts picking it up, that tight waist ankle. Otherwise, it's just going to drive me into the mat.
Yeah, that's what happened here for a long time. I knew that too, by the way.
Boom. Ooh,
JB,
beat up through
Jordan
him.
Burroughs.
Yeah,
Jordan
I've seen that
Burroughs.
before. I've seen that before.
Good enough for me. Put him to his
And
back.
the
He
slips.
should have been pinned there.
And the swips, that was a fall.
That was a
Again,
fall. This ref had it out.
Homeboy had it out for you, yeah.
If you want more bonus content like this, subscribe to Stalemates at patreon.com/stalemates. For now, enjoy this full interview with Michael Moreno. This episode was brought to you by our sponsors, Barbarian Apparel, MatMan Edge, and Above and Beyond Wash and Seal. For more info on any of these sponsors, please go to the links below. Now please enjoy this episode.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Stalemates. This is our first athlete / coach in studio, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm gonna read off his accolades here a little bit. This is a diagonal picture, so I have to hold my computer like a newspaper. Let's see. True or false? 2-time NCAA All-American at 165 pounds.
That's true.
3-time NCAA qualifier.
True.
2-time Big 12 finalists.
True.
And then cornered over a dozen All-Americans and national champions.
Give or take. Those are juniors involved as well. Yeah.
Okay. Michael Moreno, ladies and gentlemen. There's 2 people in here. It's a little bit of applause. There you go. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay, cool. Well,
that made me feel a little special. Yeah.
welcome back to your home state and kind of hometown. Do you claim, like, somebody asked where you're from? Is it Urbandale or just Des Moines?
It's funny. I lived in Urbandale probably the least of any place that I've lived since I've, I guess, been around.
Yeah.
know?
So you guys started in Clarinda?
You started in Clarinda, Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah.
You surprised I knew that or no? I mean, that's pretty known.
That's pretty widely known, especially for Southwest Iowa folks. I mean, I've known Mikey for a long time.
Yeah. Yep.
And just Centerville down there. But yeah, I lived in Clarinda for 14 years.
Wow. So I didn't realize that. I thought it was like born there because like I was born in Ottumwa, Iowa. I was there for 5 years and then we left. So I hardly ever really mention Ottumwa because it's, I was raised in Centerville,
Yeah.
But you spent 14 years in Clarinda. And then when you guys moved, was it a wrestling related move or was it just like a life move? Or both, I guess. It could be both.
It was both. I mean, my parents, they had us young, 4 kids. I think I was 21, 22, my mom was when I was born. So, they moved to this, Clarinda, and, it was a great opportunity for them. Obviously, my dad went on to win, Coach of the Year down there once, won a state title, a team title. So it was a good starting point. But I think when we were looking at opportunities, I mean, my dad was kind of looking at us. I was about to go into high school. So kind of just from an opportunity standpoint, get more eyes on me. And I think, too, professionally for him, it was a new challenge, stepping up into 3A when he got the offer at Urbandale. We had some people we knew here. Tim Carver, known him for years. He's, married to family friends. And he, at the time, I believe he was the dean of students at the time. So we kind of had some connections here and there. We're big fans of Dad. And, yeah, we jumped on board. I was not a fan at the time.
Of Urbandale?
At the time, I did not want to leave. It's all I knew was Clarinda. So, but yeah. So I mean, Dad got a great opportunity to start the program up here and really get it rolling. And obviously, they had a lot of success in the early 2000s, late 90s before we got there. But it was a good opportunity for Dad and a good opportunity for me and my brother to kind of get some more eyes on us, in the 3A stage. And obviously, nothing bad against 2A.
Yeah, this is a 2A podcast.
I know that's a touchy subject.
No,
but
it is what it is.
But it was good for us. So moved to Urbandale, went to high school here for 4 years.
You guys had a little bit of a run. So like when I was like a really young kid, it was like TJ Siebold and stuff. And like in my eyes from Centerville, like I thought Centerville was, the end all be all for wrestling. And then, I got older and then I want to, you graduated in 2010 or 9?
10.
10. Okay. So you would have been like a senior when I was a freshman. So a lot of the guys that I remember, like, when you start looking up the high school kids, it was like your guys' class.
Yeah.
And Urbandale was definitely. And when you look now at what's going on in the wrestling landscape, it's so much different. Like I think about, it was like Urbandale, it was Ballard, it was Iowa City West, it was even like Roosevelt had a little run with the Meeks and stuff, Yeah.
We had a little. It's funny now because I love all those guys, those Roosevelt guys now, but back then. It was
on site.
We had a pretty.
If I saw you on the streets, it was on site.
And I think it all kind of started with me and John Nicholson, who I also have grown to really appreciate now. I like John.
You guys end up being teammates too.
Yeah, all those guys, I like now. Chad Lohman, John Meeks. I mean, John was teammates with John Meeks too. But yeah, that Roosevelt back then they were loaded, man.
They were loaded.
Loaded. So no, it's changed, and a lot of things have stayed the same at the same time. West is back to being pretty tough, and
your dad's back.
My dad's back. Yeah,
he's back
in the saddle.
You got to camp real quick before people, if they end up leaving the episode. I want to get this camp out there really quick. So June 24th and June 25th, the Michael Moreno Wrestling Clinic at Urbandale High School at North Gym. Check it out. Hit up. How would they sign up for this? I guess.
I got so.
Actually, can you lift this up a little bit to your face?
Yeah.
Perfect. So how do they end up getting signed up for this?
So they can go to the Urbandale website that does it. Frankly, the best way to do camps for us is to go through these schools. Obviously, Urbandale High School. It's my high school. It's where I went. So
you want to go and show them the banners. That's what you want to do.
Right. Yeah. I might be up here.
Is your name? Do they have something in the gym there?
Yeah. There's a little Hall of Fame area. You walk in. I haven't been back to the high school in years. Probably 3 years, 4 years. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's up there.
How much are these? I was never good enough to get like recruit or anything.
Yeah.
How much of these camps are coaches trying to recruit these kids?
There's obviously something to that, right? Professionally, anytime that you have an opportunity to kind of like meld those things together, it's two birds, one stone kind of deal. You want to do it, right? So at camps, I can go out and I can observe kids, but at the same time, it's also just it's good just from a exposure point of view, right? Like just get out, be seen, and really the final thing is just obviously doing what we always do as wrestling coaches and just trying to help those around us, right? Lift those up around us and help the wrestling community, especially the community that was there for me, this area, especially in my high school years, was really formative for me in my wrestling career. So to be able to get back and kind of give back a little bit, that to me is the reason I coach. So that's the first and foremost, but obviously, recruiting, observations,
is there ever any kid that comes to mind that you guys might not have been recruiting, and not even at Northern Colorado, or if you ever was there ever a friend of yours or anybody that comes to mind that wasn't really getting recruited, and then they get in front of a coach at one of these camps, whether it was at Iowa State, whether it's at Northern Colorado? Was there ever a kid that was like, well, we weren't really looking at this kid, but we really liked the way that this kid was grinding at camp, or we really liked his personality, or who this kid is? Does that ever happen? Is there anybody that comes to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I probably should have freshed up on the recruiting rules a little bit. I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to say names, but but it happens all the time, and it's usually always Iowa kids. This is obviously it's my home state. I like to recruit this state.
Yeah,
obviously, there's 3 pretty big schools that wrestlers like to go to in this state, so it's proven difficult to pull them out. But these camps are perfect for that, and mostly it's kids that come to our. We had the urban or the Troy Nickerson wrestling camps at Northern Colorado on campus that we do every summer. Obviously, last summer we weren't able to do them. We weren't able to get them together this summer. But we see kids that come down to that camp, obviously because of the Iowa connection. We've had Iowa teams down there. Definitely have seen kids. One kid in particular, he'll know when I'm talking about him. That we saw him and just his work ethic, and we saw his ceiling and everything, and I think it really worked for us. He chose to go another route, which again, can't blame these kids for. You know, they're trying to do what's best for them. But we do see kids at camp all the time that catch our eye and like, hey, this
guy wasn't on our radar.
This guy wasn't on
before.
our radar now, but or he is now. You know, like let's go. You know, see what he's doing. See what
So you guys kind of use these for like showcases too, a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, we see showcases more in like baseball and stuff where they go out and they just kind of throw in front of a coach or just kind of be around the coaches and stuff. They don't really do that in wrestling, do they? Besides these camps?
Not really. I mean, you're seeing that now, right? You're seeing a lot of these like recruiting showcase tournaments. You know, these combine camps. You know, they are starting to get a little bit more popular, but you do have to get a little creative in how you're looking to do it. You know, in wrestling, it's a little different. You can't just set up a recruiting showcase and hope that all the best guys in your state show up. It doesn't always work like that. So you gotta get a little creative and just do your own thing. So obviously these camps are a good opportunity for us to do that. At the same time, it's also just a good opportunity to get out and
get better,
do something different in the summer for us too, as a staff and just get out and travel and help people around us get better. Cause I mean, we're not traveling too far. It's probably the farthest I travel for camps, but
are you the road dog?
Yeah, me and
Kylie come with you, or
me
no?
and Kylie are gonna be. Yeah, Kylie's already hit a few camps. He's gonna be grinding this summer. So yeah, we both will. But he's already hit one or two, and that's kind of our plan this summer is to just again exposure and
get your name out there
and get in front of some of these kids that we might not see on a normal basis. I think Kylie was in South Dakota last week. I'm up here in Iowa. I'll be in Iowa twice this summer, and just being able to kind of get out. Branch out a little bit, spread our roots. Obviously, we got a bunch back in Colorado too.
How many times do you name drop Justin Gaethje when you're on these recruiting trips? None at all? Maybe here or there, kind of feel the kid out, see if he's a UFC fan, or what do you think?
You gotta use Gaethje, man.
Yeah.
No, he's still
involved a little bit, or maybe behind the scenes.
He is. He stays pretty low key, I will say. But he's at duels every now and then. He'll kind of just sit up in the back by himself, and
he trains out there still, right?
Trains in Denver. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what was that, Tyler? How far was that?
From
Greeley?
Do you know the distance?
Probably. It depends on what part of Denver you want to get to. It can be anywhere from 45, from that far.
So he could still,
edge.
if he wanted to show up and kind of roll with the kids, he could. Does that ever happen?
No, he's a busy dude.
Yeah.
He doesn't get in the room too often. He does. He comes to events, comes to, fundraisers, stuff like that. But busy guy, and he fights a lot too. His volume isn't exactly low. Now that he's kind of made it a little bit, people know who he is. His fight volume will probably drop a little bit just because that's.
You get bigger, get bigger paychecks. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
he's been such a warrior for so long. You watched the fights last night, correct? Yeah. Crazy card.
Brendan Moreno looked good, man.
Stud.
Yeah, I only want to drop it because we share a name. I don't know the dude, but
I was gonna make a corny joke and be like, couldn't get Brandon Moreno, so we got Michael Moreno, but I did anyways, just right there.
Yeah, you got the diet.
Did you ever wrestle anybody or recruiting trips or anything like that the kid ended up in the UFC? Like, was there ever anybody, like, I know like Usman was kind of around at that time. There's some guys around your age that are now in the UFC that are big names, maybe not have been a big college wrestler or anything like that or folk style, but they ended up doing big things in the UFC. Does anybody come to mind?
One of my good friends, Duran Wynn.
Yes, of course.
Duran's in the.
Is that weird to see that?
League. It is, but it isn't.
Yeah. Is that something that he always wanted to do? Did he talk about it a lot or no?
Thinking back, I don't really know, honestly. But I knew probably, right when it kind of started, right when he kind of started making that transition. I mean, he was pretty vocal about it, and I always knew that was probably something that suited him. He can talk. He's a very charismatic guy.
He's got a lot of DC in him.
Yeah, they are very similar. And they're pretty close too. So. Makes a lot of sense, right? So, little DC and big DC. So, yeah, Duran, good friend of mine, he's in there. Phil Haas, who actually they're gonna fight, and Duran and Phil are gonna fight, which is kind of a
do they know each other behind the snes? I mean, they probably know of each other.
I'm trying to think of the timeline at Iowa State, but I think Phil might have been gone before Duran got there to train at the CWC at the time. So I don't know if they know each other. I know they know each other. But I don't know if they know each other from that. I think it's maybe just the fight game now. But
Were you ever there when like Usman would come and work out at all?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, Usman. I mean, again, he was bigger, so I really didn't get in on that kind of that training. But he would come in and roll with some of the bigger guys in the team at the time. Yeah, we kind of had an influx of that actually at Iowa State while we were there. Kingma used to come around a lot too. So
Really?
yeah, he's friends with Kevin Jackson, so it was easy.
Let's talk about Kevin Jackson a little bit. I'm a big Iowa State fan.
Of course.
I have been to dang near every home duel since the Kevin Jackson era and then beyond into the Kevin Dresser era. And when you think about Kevin Jackson's era, there's a lot of losses, but then there's guys like there's guys like Kyvan, there's other, All-Americans throughout the time that you think about, and he was really good for people like you, and then other people it didn't work out. What do you think the biggest thing is about, like, why did Kevin Jackson work for you?
He believed in me, and I think that goes a long way, and I obviously I don't want to get in too much into what went, what was the issues there or whatever, but for me, it worked for me. We had a great system in place. KJ motivated me, everything that I wanted to please KJ. He was like second father figure to me. I had a lot of respect for him. So I always wanted to do right by him, Now I had assistant coaches that helped me a lot too. But as far as like KJ goes, he motivated me to go to battle for him because I knew he would do the same for us. So some of us on the team, it was easy for us to kind of go out on our shield, if you will, for him. So he loves Iowa State, at the time he would do anything for Iowa State. It's where he went. It's where he finished his career. He had a lot of memories there. Me and his son were actually born around the same time when he was training in Ames, and I was obviously my dad was going to school at Iowa State, so me and Cole kind of quote unquote grew up together a little bit. So we have some memories there, and I think the personal touch also helped too, but I was just really willing to do whatever for that guy. So that worked for me because we all know wrestling, it's all you got all the time. And sometimes if you have an extra little bit of motivation, that can go a long way. So for me, KJ was, I wanted to do right by him, and that made things a little easier.
What I did like about KJ was I feel like he always recruited really exciting wrestlers. He almost had that, I feel like he's more of a freestyle guy than folk style guy. And when you look at the guys that he would recruit, it was guys who would have freestyle success, but also like just the way that they wrestled. Like Dante Rodriguez comes to mind. He was always going upper body.
Dollars.
Earl Hall comes to mind. Super exciting guy to watch. Kyvan, all those guys were guys that were fireworks. And like it, so I kept going to the duels because you just never knew who was gonna pull something off. Like when Luke Gettle beat Kendrick Maple, like that was exciting. Yeah. I don't think that was at home, but
no, it was at Oklahoma.
Yeah, like that one. Like I always felt like that era, like so many guys were like, and it could have been me being like a huge homer, but there were so many guys that were like right on the cusp of like really turning it around. Like I remember John Meeks wrestled and lost to Devin Carter by like 1 point. Yeah. Like all these things, there's like these guys are right there who just can't really get to that next thing. Let me ask you this. What's the biggest difference between Kevin Jackson and Troy Nickerson? And I'm not like asking you to compare them, but like how do they differ as coaches?
So KJ was an elite technician. He still is to this day. You see him working with USA Wrestling. They got him working with the best kids in the country. He's overseeing that. So it goes without saying, he's a master technician, great in the room, Troy is more of what you're seeing more and more of these days. He's that CEO archetype, he's great delegator, really good at.
He's kind of more reserved, kind of laid back. You feel like,
he's from New York, so he's pretty New York to the bone. I wouldn't know if I call that laid back. No, but he's very organized, very organizationally minded. Like everything is compartmentalized and it helps us run really efficiently. So that CEO mindset he's got, almost runs it like a business, top down.
Yeah.
And that's helped us be really efficient, which we need. Obviously we're in the Big 12. We're an affiliate school, so our enrollment, everything. The haves and have-nots. We're starting where we started. It's pretty impressive from what he's been able to do, and it's just because we're able to run smoothly like oil. Just again efficient from the top down. Just run it more like a business.
When he was at Iowa State, did you look at him like, yeah, this guy's probably not gonna be very long because he's probably gonna be a head coach somewhere? Did you see that in him?
Yeah. And I think that's always been kind of his personality. He's always been ready to lead. He's been mature beyond his years since I met him. I mean, I think when he took the Northern Colorado job at the time, he was the youngest head coach in the country. And I think we all kind of saw that in him a little bit. He's always been that more, I guess, mature guy. And like I said, that business mind really made it so where he knew that he needed to run his own program someday. I think Iowa State was a great stopping point for him before he took the reins of a program. You got to be able to see how all these different programs operate and everything. So he did his 2 years in Ames, and I think he learned a lot. And I think after those 2 years, he was like, yeah, I can do this. I can run this program. So took over Northern Colorado after that. And 2 years later, I joined him.
So your dad wrestled at Iowa State, All-American. You grew up in the state of Iowa, close connection with KJ. Was it always Iowa State, or was there ever like, were you just waiting on that Iowa State offer?
So it's, I had a, I think it's not that complicated actually. My recruiting process was, it's like a lot of kids, but at the same time, like I think, and again, maybe it's ego that tells me this, but I think a lot of people kind of assumed that I was probably going to go to Iowa State, I did get recruited obviously by other schools. There's actually a week where I was pretty convinced I was going to Old Dominion. I just went out there and had an awesome visit, and I was a kid. And
South, kind of.
Yeah.
Is that the South or East Coast?
It's like the Eastern Seaboard, Virginia Beach. I don't know.
Why? What happened there? Because John Eccleston went there? Like, were you guys friends at that time, kind of? Or
no, it was more. I think at the time Steve Martin just really liked recruiting Iowa. He had success. James Nicholson, John's older brother, was an All-American at Old Dominion. He had success coming. Chad Lohman went there for a few years too. So like he had success recruiting out of Iowa. Took a big swing, and I went out there. I really enjoyed my time. Like I said, for a week, I was like trying to be the contrarian. Like I might go here. Like this place is pretty cool, but I think when it came down to it, I don't think I was ready to.
Did your dad call you? Did your dad call you and say, "Hey, Mike, get home, man. You got to get home a little bit"?
No, my dad was actually really good about it. My dad, throughout the whole my wrestling life, he's been exemplary as far as like how a dad should probably handle his kid being successful in the sport that he's coaching him in. So he's always been pretty good about that, and he was very adamant that it was my decision. And I think he was a little probably concerned when I enjoyed my Old Dominion trip.
Did you ever tell him I think I might go here?
Yeah, I remember telling him like, hey, this place was pretty cool. Like both my parents, like, hey, I like this place, and my mom's like, well, why don't we just wait and see how your other visits go? And then I took my Iowa State trip the next week, and I just kind of was like, come on, man, I'm fooling myself. This is it. And mostly, it came down to a couple of things. Obviously, I always wanted to go there because my dad did. Right. And living in Iowa my whole life, it was, Iowa State, Iowa, or UNI. So I, obviously chose Iowa State and to root for growing up. And it felt right. It was comfortable. It was close to home.
Yeah.
Was the biggest thing. And I'm big with, family's really important to me. So I wanted to be close to them and them being able to support me. Plus I knew I had a little brother coming down the pipe that I wanted to make things a little easier for him too. Although he had a couple schools too that he was looking at.
What was his second?
He really liked Doug Schwab, which of course.
Okay, that would make sense. I could see that. Yeah, I was worried you were going to say the other school.
Yeah, no, come on now. He did go to grad school there. I don't give him enough crap for it, but.
All right, let me ask you this too. What's the worst wrestling venue you've ever wrestled at, and why is it Carver?
I actually love wrestling at Carver.
Okay, so I would be
for different reasons.
I would be more like you. Like I feel like I was never ever booed in my life because I never got to a point where someone would care to boo me, right? Besides my mom or something. But
my mom boos me.
I would have loved to be booed. I feel like Did you get booed there? Like, I feel like you were a home kid and like
I didn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say you didn't seem like that.
I didn't
booable.
get booed.
Kyvan would kind of amp it up. Like
Yeah.
Kyvan kind of feel like lives through that, and like Kyvan would go out there and dominate. So he would, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you did too, but like Kyvan really wanted to like send a message. I felt like.
Yeah. He lived
Did you
that
feel like
rivalry.
that, or were you more like I'm just gonna compete, pretend like it's not Carver? Like, how did you navigate the whole like rivalry between Iowa and Iowa State?
It was life or death for me. Which
Yeah.
again, I think a lot of athletes, as coaches, you should be feeding that a little bit, right? You want to get your guys to get up a little bit more.
Did that week feel more like it's on site?
Yeah, it was more like you're kind of on edge all week. You're tense. All you're really thinking about is one guy. Which again, it's a lot like a lot of duels, right?
Yeah.
Leading up to a lot of duels, but there's just something special about it, something a little extra. I think we all. I mean, every year it was the same thing. Like, hey, if you look on paper, like you could sneak a few and you can make this a duel. And
that was me, literally sitting in high school. Like, I think he can win there. I think this guy can beat him.
like, hey,
you never know. Like, if all things go right, we might get criteria and win this thing.
right. Like it never ended up going that way. But
I'll tell you what, though, that year you were gone. This is a few years ago. Whenever
I remember
it was
watching
a
it.
1 point duel. I'm sitting there in the crowd at the arena, right, at Carver Hawkeye, and I'm with all my buddies. They're all Hawkeyes, and I'm literally like there's 2 Cyclone guys in the section. The other guy's like 4 rows in front of me, and it's like sold out because this is like the beginning of dresser. So like the Hawkeye fans are kind of like, let's see where they're at type of thing. And I'm sitting there, and it's like Iowa State won like the first 3 matches, and I'm like cheering, but I'm knowing that like their hammers are coming.
Yeah.
Because where they started the duel, it was like very favorable to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like cheering and I'm like texting people and everyone's like, okay, just wait till the second half, whatever. And then things keep going our way. And I'm like, I don't know, here we go. I don't know. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm like, holy crap, like this is within sight. And then
Right.
Gomez like had him on his back. And it was DeSanto of all people. And I'm like, after we left, if you weren't paying attention to that duel meet and you just happened to walk by, you would have thought Iowa State won and Iowa lost because they were like, holy crap, they are on our heels.
They're coming, yeah.
And Iowa State fans, I'm walking away and I was like yelling outside. I'm like, the tides are turning. But we'll see what happens.
I remember watching that duel. We were in a break at Vegas.
Cliff
I think
Keen.
it was at Vegas. Because Iowa State's usually at Vegas. But we were at Vegas and they were watching the duel. So it must have been a different year or a weird year. And anyway, we were watching it in the stands and the flow guys were watching it at the grandstand, the main stage.
Leave
across
that
it.
out. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Keep going.
That one other media company, they were all watching all that stuff over there, and they were like, they were like a couple seconds ahead of us, and they were like, oh,
And you're like,
we're like, I was like yelling at him like, Sion's over there. I know Sion, from he's Iowa State days, and
I like
look
him.
up and be like, hey, stop.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know yet. Stop. Like we wanna be surprised. So and then lat drop. So we remember watching that in the whatever that place is that you wrestle in Vegas, big old room. So
Dang.
ballroom.
Yeah, it kind of hurts to go back and think about that, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Get another
I'm gonna ask you
opportunity.
just some random wrestling questions,
Yeah.
not really pertaining to you, but just as a wrestling fan. You're still a wrestling fan, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Logan Paul, wrestling world, should they claim him or should they not?
I mean,
Did you see that? Did you see that debate?
Yeah, you can claim him if you want. Whatever, man. I mean, if he wrestled, he wrestled. I understand why maybe people don't want to claim him, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. If the dude wrestled, he wrestled,
and he
did.
at a pretty high level.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
5th in state in Ohio,
pretty good.
pretty good.
When you all things considered, I mean, again, we have a tendency, coaching at the D1 level, we have a tendency to downplay some things like that, but it is a pretty good accomplishment. And I mean, you kind of have to claim him as a wrestler.
There we go. There we go.
You kind of have to, right?
Go ahead. We're gonna make the title. Michael Moreno co-signs Logan Paul.
Oh my God! Don't do that.
No?
That's not what I want that to say. That's not what I meant. But if you're looking at facts, I mean, he did in fact wrestle. So
He did.
I don't
Can't
know.
deny that.
Yeah.
You can't really argue much anymore. So
No,
yeah.
he did. It's a proof. It's out there. There's a picture and everything.
Yeah, photo internet.
Okay, tomorrow you get voted as the CEO, president of wrestling in general.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, college wrestling.
College wrestling. Okay.
And they say you can make whatever move you want. Are you staying with folk style or are you switching it to freestyle?
That's a tough question because there's a lot of things about folk style that I do love. But I think from a purist standpoint, that gets in our way. We get in our own way. Sometimes I do think that we could maybe market freestyle a little better, especially when you're talking, like you talked about some athletes earlier about how they excelled at freestyle. Like those are typically the exciting, explosive, big move athletes that you like to see that they excel in freestyle because you get rewarded more for being exciting, explosive, high flying, So maybe we could market freestyle a little better. Again, I don't know the real true answer to that because I'm just a guy with an opinion and,
Oh, we all are. That's I hate when people kind of feel like their opinions matter more than the others. But at the end of the day, we're all fans of the same thing.
We all want the same thing. We all want wrestling to flourish and do as well as it can and get in front of more eyes. And we want to share our love with more people, right? And there's nothing at base, there's nothing selfish or greedy or egotistical about that. But when people, people do have a tendency to jump in and be like, this is what's best for wrestling, period. Y'all need to stop arguing. It's like we all have different angles that we look at in different ways we look at wrestling and how we can improve it. And I think all of those ideas are valid until they're not, right? Until we try them and they don't work. But right now, what we can't do is just stay stagnant. We got to keep moving and keep trying to improve it and make that product a little shinier. Again, I'm one of those thoughts, that doesn't really think, maybe wrestling never will be as big as football or basketball. And I think we have to be okay with that. There's some niche sports in there that do really well. Golf is huge these days. I mean, golf's always been popular, but it's blowing up. There's like sports out there that have their niche that still are able to really get in front of a large audience. So we don't have to try to be football. We don't have to try to be basketball. Let's just be wrestling and let's try to be honest about what our sport does and what it does for young men and women. And I think that'll take us a long way. I mean,
it drives me crazy though when I see some of these other sports kind of surpass wrestling. Like I think jiu-jitsu's on its way to surpass us.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like you had the opportunity in Clarinda, Iowa to wrestle. I don't know, but you most likely probably didn't have the opportunity to do jiu-jitsu at a young age unless you were driving to wherever.
In the 90s, I mean, in the 90s, probably not a lot of places.
So
I would hard pressed to find a place even like Omaha in the 90s. I could be wrong on that. But
my point is there's so many more kids out there who have the opportunity to wrestle than have the opportunity to do jiu-jitsu. Now there's probably more jiu-jitsu opportunities now than there used to be for jiu-jitsu.
Right.
But you got to think about how big of a sport wrestling is on a grandiose scale, whether they're fans or just kids wrestling in a club or high school, whatever. Like to see us get surpassed by some of those sports tells me I don't think that we're doing, we could be doing more, I guess, and like we wanted to do this podcast to introduce some of these storylines and stuff to those people because those people who are not quite wrestling fans yet, they probably don't care about breaking down technique podcasts.
They don't know. They don't know what.
They might eventually get to that point.
Yeah.
Like when I first started watching UFC, I didn't know crap about anything. Mm-hmm. Like, if this guy knocks this guy out, he wins. If this guy submits him, he wins.
Human cockfighting.
I still not going to act like I know anything about the combat thing. I've never made that walk. I've never practiced any of that. But the more you watch it, the more you kind of pick up on like, he's going to take his back.
Yeah.
He's going to do this and that, his leg kick, stuff like that. You start to pick up on stuff. Mm-hmm. So you get to that point.
Right.
But at first you need those like storylines of like, why does Michael Moreno, not like Iowa because his dad, I don't know how you feel about them. I'm just kind of giving, I shouldn't use your name. Use just a random, why does this random Iowa State wrestler not like this guy or your rivalries with whoever it is. Right. And then, now I want to watch to see how this plays out. Okay. Now I'm going to start watching this, and then we get down the road and then you can break down and get smarter things. But I feel like with wrestling, we always start off with I feel like we just write off people who, he doesn't know what he's talking about because he wasn't a state champ.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's talking about because he wasn't Division I. You're not an athlete. to me, it's like, guys, we're shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, we gotta branch out and kind of. I look at like skateboarding a lot because skateboarding is really tough. I'm kind of ranting a little bit here, but skateboarding is like really tough.
Yeah.
Wrestling is really tough. It's almost like that same mindset where like you have to suck for. How long did you suck?
I don't think
Did you ever suck?
Yeah, no, I did. I don't think I got to a point where I was like, wrestling's going to take me places. Probably until like, I wasn't even successful until like 8th grade. I placed it at Tulsa. I got like 3rd in Tulsa in 8th grade.
Yeah.
I went 2 in 7th grade, So I didn't really start thinking like, I could be pretty good at this, and probably until like 8th grade, maybe even later, if we're being honest, from like a mental standpoint, like what my head was telling me. I think my dad saw it pretty early, but
so I look at, skateboarding and wrestling, you got to suck for a long time. And then eventually you get good, right? But I look at skateboarding, I feel like skateboard's so much bigger than wrestling too, because they have these huge corporate sponsors. They've got TV deals. Those skateboarders turn into celebrities in a sense. And I know they're kind of, different things. And some people might say it's apples and oranges and stuff. But if you look at them, I'm like, these, we always say wrestling's not going to grow because it's just too tough of a sport for a lot of people. But in my opinion, I feel like it almost takes like a superstar to kind of get these kids to want to do it. If you grew up watching MTV, you might have saw Ryan Sheckler and thought, oh, I want to be Ryan Sheckler in a way.
right.
I don't know how we grow like skateboarding has grown. Now, there are skateboarders who hate that. There are skateboarders who hate that it's been, that they're in the Olympics. They can't stand it because it's not cool and stuff like that.
It's too mainstream, bro.
Just like with wrestling, I feel like there's that too. There's a lot of people who are like, whatever. I don't know.
Purists.
Purists,
again, I'm a purist in some way from like a sporting standpoint. Like I love sports to be pure, your reasonings, about honor and pride and all that. But you also can't project that on the world. If wrestling needs a little bit more of that capitalistic incentive or that mainstream incentive, then and that's what's going to make it grow, then let's do it. Skateboarding obviously is, like you said, it's a little apples to oranges, but at the same time, like it is tough and it is kind of a gnarly sport. You get banged up and scraped up and all that, and kids like doing it. It's actually funny. I turned 30 in like 2 weeks, and that's one of my things I want to start trying to learn how to do is skate. I've always been like kind of a skate kid without being able to skate. So I was like,
and it sucks too because
do it.
No, it's gonna kill me.
I picked it up last year during quarantine because I skateboarded when I was a teenager. And I just got the crap beat out of me. I quit with like 2 weeks.
That's the plan, right? I need to get beat up a little bit. It's 30 and it's been like 4 years since I've had a consistent just getting my body beat up. Granted, some of my athletes beat me up pretty good. Andrew Alirez is always dinging my ribs up and whatnot. I always got something going on, but maybe I need to get beat up a little bit. So skating was like,
give it a go and see what you think.
Let's see it. Yeah. Let's try it out.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you guys for watching. Michael, one more time, the camp is June 24th and June 25th at Urbandale High School. Michael's a good guy, good family, good wrestling family. You got Gabe, your brother, Iowa State. Mike Moreno as well. Anybody else going to be in the house? Just the Moreno clan.
Well, Colston DeBlasi.
Oh, nice.
Oh
yeah.
He's helping. He's helping my dad. I'm not sure if. I'm not sure if he'll be around. I know I would like to obviously get him around. He's wrestled at a very high level as well.
Exciting. He was another KJ guy that was
Fireworks.
like, he could go out and wrestle a big, top 5 guy and he could pin him because he pinned, I think last year he didn't he have the most pins in the country, maybe something like that.
Something like that. He's always
Crazy.
doing some weird stuff.
Yeah.
I remember, funny anecdote before we bounce out, we would always get really, and I'm not telling you anything Colson doesn't know, so I'm not really like ragging on, but we get, trying to teach him to sprawl a little bit because he loved letting dudes on his legs and just
love that,
wrestling
though.
that.
I love that.
Almost like wrestling, doing a little bit of jits, like, doing these freaking front headlocks on his butt and trying to reach under and hook a leg and just doing funky stuff. And
how's his shoulders now?
Eventually it just worked for him. We just let him go with it.
His shoulders good?
Yeah, I think so.
He's good? Yeah. Like Dagan wrestles that way too, and Dagan's shoulders not great right now.
It's a lot of torque to put on your joints all the time. So my brother's got shoulder issues. I got shoulder issues. I think that's part of wrestling, but at the same time, it's a lot of torque when you're just sitting on your butt trying to crank front heads and hook legs and all that fun stuff. So,
All right, guys. Hit like, comment, subscribe, all that. Thank you, Michael, for coming around. Thank you for having us back in January, December, something like that.
Something like that.
That was awesome.
Time's melting together.
It is.
No, it was great having you guys out there. So
cool. We'll come out again. We got to go out there and see a dual meet because now there's going to be fans. It'll be a lot better.
It'll be a lot better. Yeah.
All
Get some
right.
fans in there.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.